This is our 8th grade STAAR review, lesson 4, understanding proportional relationships. Okay, a proportion is an equal equation stating that two ratios are equal. So a proportion is an equation stating that two ratios are equal. For example, 2/3 equal 4/6. If you take 4/6, divide each by 2, you're going to get 2/3. So that is a proportional relationship. I'm just going to look at vocabulary. You can go through this notes part yourself. If we look here at the table, tables are easy. If you go over, this is 1 hour. He's going to drive 50 miles. So 50 miles per hour. It must go through the origin. Origin is 0, 0. Okay? That is your origin. This is the vocabulary that you'll need to remember. All of these are proportional. Any number over 1 is that number. But 100 over 2 simplifies to 50. 150 over 3 still simplifies to 50. So all of those are equivalent. They're proportional. The rate of change. We've talked about the rate of change. It's a comparison of two quantities that are changing. Rate of change, also known as slope. The unit rate. That's a lot about what this practice is going to be today, is about unit rate. Is a ratio of measurements in which the measurement of the denominator is 1 unit. Okay, it may be per hour, per mile, per day, per week, per month, but everything has to be a unit rate of 1 unit. The slope, we've talked about the slope, and it is the slope of a line is a ratio. It is your rise over your run. It is your change in your y over your change in your x. Now then, some of you are getting confused of the slope, change of y over change in x, to your unit rate. Unit rate is going to be x over y for your unit rate. Okay, let's turn the page. There's more examples for you to go through, but we're going to skip over. You can read those yourself. Number 1. In the graph below, x represents the time in seconds, and y represents the number of pages printed by a printer. So I'm going to take what I know and pull it out of the words and write it down. X equals seconds, and y equals pages. What is the unit rate in which the printer operates? I'm wanting to find the unit rate. On the graph, we can go over 2. This is 2 seconds. So 2 seconds printed 1 page. So 2 seconds to 1 page. So keep this in mind. You have 2 seconds to 1 page. Let's read our answers. 4 pages per second. Well, let's see. 4 pages. 4 pages is going backwards. So 4 pages would be printed in 8 seconds if you read your chart. Okay, so that one is not right. We're looking for per second. 2 pages per second. Well, 2 pages printed would be 2 seconds. And I'm pulling all of this off of my graph. 1 page per second. really notice is what your graph is going up by, and this is going to go up in 2, 4, 6, 8 seconds. So your 1 second, let me change colors, will be right here. So that would be your 1 second. And if I did that, it's going to come about right there. So I get 1 page in 2 seconds. So if I simplified that, how many pages would I get in 1 second? I would have to half the 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that would be 1 second. And then how many pages? 1 divided by 2 is going to be 0.5. So this right here, because the first line would be 1, but this would be 0.05. So it's not 1 page per second. It's 2 seconds for 1 page. So if we split that again in half, you're going to end up getting a half a page per second. Half a page per second. Number 2. Kelly is knitting a blanket in 3 hours. She is able to knit 18 rows, so 18 rows in 3 hours. Assume she can knit the same number of rows per hour. Which equation represents the relationship between the number of hours she knits and the number of rows she knits? Okay, so rows is Y, and your hours is your X. And if we want to simplify 18 rows by 3 hours, we need to divide. So if you have a calculator, 18 divided by 3 equals 6. So 6 per hour. Remember our formula, Y equals mx plus b. M equals slope. B equals y-intercept. The y-intercept on a proportional relationship has to go through 0. So in any equation that is proportional, your b has to be 0, which means they don't have to put it down because it's going to be 0. Your slope is your y over your x, which is 6. So if I rewrote my formula, it would be y equals 6x. So out of your answers, your answer would be B. There's another way you can check it. It's to plug the numbers in for what it stands for. If x equals 3, and I did 3 times 3 is 9. My y is not 9, it's 18. 6 times 3 is 18. My y is 18. So it's just another way to double check yourself to make sure your answer is correct. Number 3. At Cooper High School, each classroom has the same number of desks. The table below shows the total number of desks and the number of classrooms. Which statement is false? When it asks that question, which statement is false? I want you to highlight it. I want you to do true or false. True or false. True or false. True or false. Because we're looking for false. So you have to go through these and decide which one is false. But if you forget that you're looking for the false, you might pick the first one that's true. The unit rate is 30 desks per classroom. 30 desks per classroom. Again, that's unit rate. We're looking to find unit rate. So unit rate would be your change of y over the change in x. So it would be 90 divided by 3 to find the unit rate. 90 divided by 3 is 30. 90 divided by 3 is 30. 120 divided by 3 is, oh, I should have put 4. 120 divided by 4 is 30. So your unit rate here is going to be 30. 180 divided by 6 equals 30. And they are proportional because they all come out to the same. They're all proportional. No classroom, no desks. So it would go through the origin at 0, 0. So the unit rate of 30 desks per classroom, that's true. Not my answer. The relationship between the number of desks and the number of classroom is a direct variation. True, because it went through 0. It's all proportional. C, the relationship between the number of desks, y, and the number of classrooms, x, can be represented by the equation y equals 30 plus x. So, if you go back to the bottom of the page where we wrote that formula out, is this true? Remember your y-intercept. I told you if it was a direct variation, it has to be 0. This one doesn't even have the x by it. The x is over here. So this one is false. Isn't that what we're looking for? So C. But let's just double check D. In 2 classrooms, there are 60 desks. We need to find the unit rate of that classroom because 2 is not on our chart. We need to make sure that it sticks true to 30. 60 divided by 2 is 30. So it still is proportional. So your answer is C. Number 4. Santiago is analyzing his reading rate. He says the equation 2x minus 5y equals 0. Compare the number of minutes till he reads x. So we're comparing x to the number of pages he reads y. Okay, we're comparing those two. What is the reading rate as a unit rate? Okay, unit rate. Is it 5 pages per minute, 2.5 pages per minute, 2 pages per minute, or 2 2/5 pages per minute? It said the ratio is going to be x to y. My x is 2, and my y is 5. So it's 2 to 5. And we can write our ratios either way. And our answer isn't going to be in a fraction form, so your unit rate will be 2/5 pages per minute. Again, this is unit rate comparing x to y. Number 5. Masco researched the cost of renting a bike at 4 different shops. She made these tables to record her findings. Which table shows a proportional relationship, they all got to equal unit rates, between the cost of the rental and the number of hours? So again, we're going to just simply go and find the unit rate on each table. Unit rate, you're going to simply divide x, y, so it's going to be y over x. Take 8, divide that by 2, and you get 4. 16 divided by 4 is 4. 24 divided by 6 is 4. 32 divided by 8 is 4. So far that's seems to be the one that's going to be proportional. But we want to double check and prove it to be right and the rest to be wrong. So 10 divided by 2 is 5. 14 divided by 4 is going to give you 3.4. So that tells me that is not proportional. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 14 divided by 4 again is 3.4. I can stop there because they're not proportional. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 20 divided by 4 is 5. I can stop there because they're not proportional. A is proportional. Number 6. Lionel is making invitations to a family reunion. He drew this graph to show how many invitations he made in the first 5 hours that he worked. Okay. 1 hour, he can make 8 invitations. 2 hours, 16 invitations. Okay. This one, the table only goes through 5. But let's see what our question is. Lionel needs to make 120 invitations in all. If he continues to work at the same rate, how many more hours must he work on the invitations? How many more hours? It doesn't say how long is it going to take for him to make 120 invitations. We know he makes 8 an hour. But he already has 40 made. How many more hours does he need to work to complete 120? We're going to have to take 120 is what he needs to make minus what he has already made. So 120 minus 40 is going to be 80. He needs to make 80 more. How long is it going to take him to make 80 more invitations? If the unit rate is 8 per hour and I need 80 more invitations, you need to divide by 8. And you're going to get 10 hours. That's how many more hours he needs to work. Number 7. Which equation represents a proportional relationship between x and y and the unit rate is 3/4? Okay, remember when on the other problem when it said the ratio x to y? Same thing. X to y. So 3 was going to be your x, 4 is going to be your y. So if we look here, we're going to do 3 is x, 4 is y. And you're finding the difference. And it's the only one that has 3 with x besides this one and 4 with y, but that doesn't have it. So unit rate, finding the unit rate is your x to y on problems like this. Number 8. Garrett and Margot took pictures on their school trip. The graph shows the number of pictures Garrett took based on the number of hours he was on the trip. The table shows the number of pictures Margot took based on the number of hours that she was on the trip. His is in a graph, hers is in a table. It's much easier to read a graph than it is a table to find unit rate. The unit rate for Garrett would be 1 hour, 50 pics. So Garrett had 50 pictures to 1 hour. Okay. On Margot's, we have to find the unit rate by dividing by 3. So you have 150 divided by 3, and that's going to give you 50 pics per 1 hour. So they actually did the same, didn't they? We could also double check by going up here on the graph and doing, okay, let's see. She, at 3 hours, Garrett had 150 at 3 hours. Margot had 150 at 3 hours. So both ways, finding the unit rate from table and graph, or going and finding Margot's on the graph, would also prove that theirs is proportional. So let's read our answers. Based on the information in the graph and table, which statement is true? Which one is true? Garrett took more pictures per hour than Margot. No. Margot took more pictures per hour than Garrett. No. Garrett and Margot took the same number of pictures per hour. Yes. There is not enough information to decide who took more pictures. No. So your answer is C. Okay, number 9. Lupita says that she bikes an average speed of 1/4 mile per minute. Which speed is equivalent to Lupita's average speed? Okay, just like the other, this one, we haven't talked about a lot about it, but 1/6 per minute. When we divide fractions, we keep change flip. So we end up multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/6 is 6. So let's see which one can average out at 6 miles per hour, or minute, sorry. So if we did 3 divided by 1, you get, oh, that was my answer. 3 divided by 1 is 3. Oh. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So 3, 6, 25 divided by 5 is 5. 60 divided by 15 is 4. So B is your answer. Okay, the last one. Camping supplies store sells trail mix by the pound. The equation is 15x minus 4y. Relates to the total cost of dollars trail mix at y to the number of pounds bought x, which is the unit cost per pound of trail mix in dollars. So again, the ratio is going to be x over your y. So the 15 divided by 4, and if you do that on your calculator, 15 divided by 4 is 3.75. Make sure on these bubble sheets you put in your proper place value. So 3.75. Make sure you go down and you color in the appropriate number. And that's the first chapter that we're going to go over, the first lesson. Next lesson will be over lesson 5, relating slope and y-intercept to linear equations.